I forget how many things I have. Like if I suspend the process, I have a thing on my prompt. Well, I have two things. It's showing the exit code with a question mark, because that's the shell variable that has exit codes in it. So it's a mnemonic. And then it shows me how many background and jobs I have, which is kind of cool.
Oh, sleep 40. Okay, don't wake me up for 40 minutes.
40 seconds, actually.
Oh, damn.
So I find that kind of cool. There's also the time on the right-hand side. That's our prompt, which is a bit of text to put on the right-hand side. It disappears if you get close to it, so it's not confusing.
Now, if I fall asleep, I'm not missing anything because the video, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot of jobs. I miss all of these features when I'm actually maintaining, when I'm doing service. But I don't have to do service because I'm a developer. All right, so Pete, are you recording yet?
I'm recording.
Oh, okay. So this first part's been kind of boring, but...
Well, that's okay. I use the time to go to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't interrupt you from your nap.
Uh-oh, your font went small.
That's because I went to a different window. I think we're using 3. 3 is fine. I'm also using URXVT, so if you're surprised about the fact that I can change the font size on the fly in URXVT, talk to me after the thing, I'll show you the file. It's simple. All right, so I'm just actually copying something out of here. So sort of an iterative process. It'll probably be an iterative process for whatever you're in. Actually, who's interested in actually running Apache here? Once again, the people interested in Apache and LAMP and stuff are not here. In fact, I have more Rails developers here than normal. What?
What's your question?
How many people are interested in compiling Apache in your home directory versus project management features of Vim?
I think Apache is cool.
Yeah, Apache.
Apache to Apache.
Yeah.
The Rails developers are like, man, Apache's so old. I'm like the same way. I mean, fast CGI is an Nginx, right?
Well, you know, but it's kind of like reliable. I mean.
No, it's not.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, we'll do it.
My website's on Apache. It seems to be.
I have specific things I have to do when I'm editing Mozilla Pro code as opposed to other Pro code. I have, it's basically per project editor settings. And some nifty things you can do with that. It was my backup plan, should this fail, should this fail. I think I can do this quickly and then talk about something else or someone else can have the floor. I think I like that. So.
Is that a shell script that you wrote?
What? Yeah, that was a shell script I wrote. Actually, I can just talk about the shell script in general. And the parts that interact with Apache. So, I had gotten into the situation where I've had to roll my own thing on a stupid box that I don't have enough permissions on a lot. This originally started very nobly, very simply with something that you would normally, I mean, not normally, but something that's acceptable. It's like, I need to compile them, and I'm not talking about this particular thing. So I wrote the shell script that compiled them. And then I was like, I need tmux, and I built the shell script to tmux. And eventually I folded them all into here. And then I needed to run Apache. And I didn't want to install Apache on my box because I'm stubborn. So instead I decided the best possible thing to do would be to install Apache like I've been installing everything else that I haven't actually been installing custom things on my laptop. It's been mostly on other people's servers, but I kind of turned this on its head because I don't want Apache to be a full-class citizen in my system. I want it to run as my user process and not be real. It's sort of like denialism about the fact I have to use Apache. So it's pretty simple to actually compile and build Apache. So I mean, if this was a talk like downloading and compiling Apache, like this was 1999 and this was there weren't package managers, it would just be you download the tarball and you run the configure. But there's some nuances to it. So if you did want to do that, you would do this thing. You download the tarball, the source file, which is up here. It's the version number. I'm using 2.26 because of reasons. So this should just work, right? just going to show you the problem. Wants to take bets on how it'll fail. Probably won't. It's run like 100 times at this point. I literally had to run it 100 times because I keep forgetting like which features need to be compiled in. Did that not work? Oh, oh, it has a cache. That's cheating. All right. Oh, but it's installed now. Nope, it doesn't. My shell does not ask me when I want to cavalierly delete the entire directory. And what I needed to use more bandwidth this month anyway. So, ETA 1 minute. So as this is downloading this, one of the things I ran into is I also had to install Perl, which is this gets confusing. So it lives as a dual life thing. It's both on the CPAN and it's also something that you can download by itself. But it turned out it was actually just able to install the CPAN, and that actually worked. Of some interest, possibly to other scripting language developers. The whole reason I started doing this is I wanted to isolate the Mozilla. I'm getting a little bit away from the Apache thing on build, so I'll get back to the Apache thing in a second. So I just want to explain. I wanted to isolate Mozilla's version of Perl from the version of Perl that I might be using for other things. So I have this thing called Blend, which is a bit like RBENV, I think. It's simpler. There's another thing called Perl Brew, which is a bit more like RBM. This is much simpler and doesn't do a lot, but it does let me keep separate versions. So that was fun. What I think I need to do now is write an executable that will pick this and use the Perl interpreter and pass the right argument service. This is actually a problem that I have. Is I'm running sometimes when I'm not using my Perl, I have to make sure these run as CGIs, and well, that's not how it works originally. Hold on a second. It's using that, and that sucks because when this runs as CGI, yes, this has to still run as a CGI. Do you know who the biggest consumer of these CGIs is? The high technology company known as Red Hat. Anyway, because it has to be a normal executable, it says user bin Perl. It has to, because of some security crap from back before Sanity, before virtualization and containers. It has this taint mode thing, which has to be passed as an argument. The normal way around this, and in most scripting languages, would be to call user bin env and execute Perl that way. The problem is it only interprets the next section as an argument, so it actually tries to pass Perl space WT, the env process, which does not work.
Can't you just quote it?
No, it doesn't. It's not smart enough. Oh, that will work, but I'm not executing it. I need to do it that way. Yeah, see, Perl dash no such file directory. So I'll actually be creating an interpreter that passes the right arguments from the shebang line. I think that they're flexible enough to do this. I haven't actually talked if we can upstream that to Mozilla, but it's better than nothing. Because using the system Perl is like, I mean, Ruby developers, do you like using the system Ruby, or do you usually use some kind of version management thing so that you don't,
System Ruby's broken.
System Perl is
I
always,
tried System Ruby for OpenSUSE's not bad, but still, it's not great.
for development work, you don't use the system anything. If you're a Python developer, you don't use the system Python. You don't use the system Perl. Those are for things that are installed. But even then, it gets complicated. If you actually package a desktop app in the scripting language, you probably package your interpreter too, just because things change all the time. So what I was surprised, was it my compile done? Oh, my compile done. That didn't take very long, all of it. So Apache, by default, is really interesting. I've always been spoiled by Debian-based systems, and apparently they rename things. So I was like, wow, there's file's not called Apache.conf. Actually, I'm not sure if it was still called Apache.conf the last time I used it, but I still remember it being Apache.conf. So there's not much to say about Apache that I didn't I'd have to have a specific goal other than, hey, it's working and installed and running. Also, I have an Apache process running, so I should probably move its directory, the other installed directory back. Actually, I'll just remove that.
Good question.
Sure.
Are there any, I've never ran Apache or anything like that. It's usually been a system with Apache that I've run before. Are there any kind of mission issues or anything?
Oh yeah, actually, that is something. So, the two things you have to do, and really these are better handled than other HTTP daemons. Like you can run Nginx by itself much easier, but with Apache, you have to make sure that you're not listening on a low port number, or do some security. There's an SE Linux thing or capabilities thing where you can make yourself able to listen on port 80, right? You can grant a process that's not root the ability to do that, right? Someone? Probably, yeah, you can. But anyway, I didn't feel like doing it, so 7780. The other thing is there's like a group, I think. Oh no, it ignores this directive if it's run as non-root, so you can still have that directive in there. That's normally it would change it to run as user daemon and group daemon. But if you're running it as normal user, you don't have to do that. And everything's going to default to where you installed it. So if you install it to your home directory, it'll be able to write to the files there. So I've actually considered running Apache in this fashion, merely to get a complete WebDAV server, but still have it be fronted by Nginx. So it's kind of interesting. Some of the things that, I mean, it's just interesting. The whole mindset of the way that people do web apps back in this ancient land is crazy, because they put bits of Apache configuration in the code. You know what I'm talking about. They talked about these files, these magical htaccess files. Yeah, and then this is a huge part of the application too. Like porting this, like it sets an environmental variable. It's URL rewriting. Okay, URL rewriting, grant you, I do that all the time. But it just seems weird to have this in the directory, because it kind of splits things up. And it's not like that. All you need is those htaccess files. No, there's configurations that are required in the global one too. So it just splits it up for no reason. So not all is fun in the land of maintaining somewhat old code.
Have you ever had an issue with Apache recognizing other runtime languages like PHP or Perl as well?
Well, it doesn't really recognize. I know a little bit about this because I actually wrote an Apache. So full disclosure, I have written in the past Apache handlers in both Perl and C. So Apache request handlers. So depending on what language you're talking about, there's like a couple different ways that things are going to go. If you're writing in PHP and you're running PHP with mod PHP, most people know those words, that means that the request comes in and there's loadable code loaded into Apache that will take that request based on some rules, which I don't think are in my example config file, but I'll take a look. No, they're not in here now, but there's a handle request, add handler. So you would say add handler. I forget exactly if add handler is used for this or if it's for something else.
You create a handler,
You
add a handler, and you assign it to a specific extension.
Yeah. So yeah, that's out. And you can do it to a line type too, can't you?
Yeah. I believe so.
Yeah, because I wrote an Apache module in C that rotated all the images upside down, and it didn't have to associate with an extension associated with image star. And I just hoped that the underlying image magic library could handle any image that it came across. It pretty much did. It's pretty cool if you ever surreptitiously install this module on someone's machine, it would rotate all the images, flip them upside down. Now, if it's a CGI script, the CGI is handled by mod CGI, and that executes a process, and there's this protocol that it talks through. So that means every single request is being processed. And I mean, at the time, this didn't seem that bad in Linux because Linux processes are really cheap, but they're still not free. So generally, that's bad, which is why mod PHP exists. The other solution is mod fast CGI, which is the even more complicated mechanism. And really all of these sort of break down, and most of the things I've experienced lately, you don't do any of those, you just run an HTTP server and forward requests to it through a proxy, through a front-facing proxy. Because if you look at it, CGI, and at least with the case of CGI and fast CGI, they're just kind of like, they're sort of like HTTP, but a little bit different. So just use HTTP, right? All right, so Apache is, well, I guess you could write down why I don't like Apache. Is Apache running? Well, while it's certainly not using as much memory as MySQL is using. Yes, there's reasons MySQL is using that much memory. Do I see it on the list?
Large data set?
Well, I have to have the InnoDB cache set to 4 gigs, which is half of my available memory.
That sucks.
What?
That sucks.
They're gonna give you more memory, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get more memory. Well, I have a database file that's sanitized. Anyone can download this, by the way. It's all public, but it's oops, that's way too small. 9.5 gigs of SQL. Is that compressed? No, it's asking 9.5 gigs. It's a sanitized dump of all of the bugs in Mozilla. Sanitized meaning private stuff's not in there. How many lines? This is a meaningless measurement. How many lines is that? Yeah, that's going to take a while.
5 days.
All right. Am I in there? That was the CGI script. So that's Apache. Is there any more specific guided questions on this? I mean, I guess it's not like to say that you couldn't use this. I mean, there's certainly reasons to use this. There's a lot of load balancing stuff that can sit in front of JBoss that you can use. WebDAV supports really good, yes?
The build script that you use, do you have that somewhere like on GitHub or something that we can look
Yeah,
at?
it's technically on GitHub, and I should probably post links to
Because that
it.
looks very handy, especially for Teams and something like that, just to get that, because I usually use whatever zipper gives me.
I am my remote. I think that the current one isn't. Yeah, I'll have to commit this. I can do that right now, though. Put this up on the screen and I will email it to list and put it on the page. What is it called? I don't remember what my repository is called.
PUP.co.
Oh, it's called Dylan. Some exciting things are going on next door, aren't they?
Apparently.
Is it a movie or is it actually people arguing? That's fine.
They're arguing about a movie this point.
You're arguing about which Ant-Man is better.
Alright, Johnski. Also, if you have IRC scroll, it's there. No, I guess you don't. But, yeah. I feel like awkward right now, like I should be being quiet or something.
But then if you're quiet, you can hear them.
Well, I mean, I guess I could talk louder. So, by the way, and since this is not being recorded on YouTube, my usage of this browser, which is technically Firefox with Pentadactyl, is not, and the fact that every other slug meeting for the last 2 years has been in Chrome has absolutely nothing to do with my employment. Well, I mean, it's indirect. It's my own choice. I was not brainwashed in the star chamber to only like Firefox.
That's just how good they are.
On the Firefox, I actually gave it a try again, and it's working out really good. There's what's the option to show threads? Found this out the other day.
Oh, that's,
H. Have to make the font smaller a little bit, but that's my sequel. Let's see if I limit it to myself. Firefox is actually pretty good. I mean, I think it can. I don't know how much of what each of these threads are doing, but it's running an awful lot of threads. So I used to argue that I was using Chrome because it was faster, but Firefox is seeming to be pretty good as far as resource utilization on my 4-core laptop.
after Chrome came out, didn't they kind of rewrite the base?
Well, and there's an electrolysis project now that's, Pete can remove this part from the video, maybe, or I can. There's an electrolysis project that people are working on. I think it's coming out soon, which will make it multi-process, but there's a lot of stuff involved.
That's actually public information at this point.
Yeah, it is public. There isn't really private information. There's hardly anything that I can say that it's not widely known. The only stuff is the stuff you would be interested in, like internal politics. Yeah, there's nothing that would be, well, it's the typical company internal stuff, nothing like this secret projects. That's actually weird. I had this, I used to have to do this. I had this MRC local file, which I probably should can get rid of now, because I have these per project settings, which I wanted to talk about. This simplified version. I don't need to do this now because the names of the projects I was working on at my previous jobs, like, be necessarily secret, and now it's like I'm not. It's really weird to like have used open source my entire life and now to be actually being paid to work on it. Isn't that insane? All right, I'm kind of done, and there's like a good amount of time left before we have to leave.
A half hour.
More than a little more, 38 minutes. So can someone do something?
You know,
Some
you
Irish
should,
chick?
What?
you should finish the stuff you talked about SSH a couple meetings back.
Ah, what was left?
Because you never got to dynamic proxies or.
Oh, I never talked about that. I don't know much about using that, other than I can make Firefox use it. I guess I know a little. There's T-Socks. Do I have T-Socks? I have T-Socks installed. Dynamic proxies, the B flag and SSH. I'm not sure.
Socks proxies.
Yeah, it's called the dynamic proxy though.
You call it dynamic all at once. It creates a sock proxy, it wants a socks proxy.
Yeah. Do we have that? We have that on the thing, don't we? There's a recording of that too. But that would mean me having to keep talking, whereas I was trying to get someone else in. I could try figuring out why my VPN doesn't work behind some networks.